Welcome to In Her Voice. My name is Kelly Covert, and I am passionate about helping women live authentically by listening to their inner voice. Get ready to be inspired by women of all walks of life that have set aside their should-bes and not good enoughs and are standing in their true voice, the voice of wisdom that each and every one of us has inside. Oh, hey there, you guys. It's Kelly, and you are listening to In Her Voice, and I am so excited that you're here because you are totally going to love my guest today. Her name is Mary Hyatt, and she is going to share with us this awesome idea about redefining the word babe. No, for real, like seriously. And this is an episode that is chock full of self-love and understanding what you need to give yourself in order to feel good in your own body, in your own skin. I really, really think that you guys are going to love it. And speaking of feeling good in your body, in your skin, I want to remind you that In Her Voice is sponsored by Beautycounter. And Beautycounter is a safer skincare and makeup company. And I am super excited to be a part of Beautycounter because I really feel like our beauty shines from the inside out. And when we are treating our body with things that are valuable and worthy of what we are producing from the inside out, it's just going to enhance that beauty even more. And I love the mission that Beautycounter has, which is to put safer skincare into the hands of everyone, not just the people who can afford expensive beauty products, but everyone. So you should be able to walk into a Target and take anything off of the shelf and feel like it's okay for you to put it on your body, that it's not going to disrupt your hormones and it's not going to cause bad things in the environment. But truth be told, in the United States right now, that is actually not possible. So I highly recommend you take a look at the Beautycounter products, one of my favorites for the summer, especially if you are sensitive to what's going on in our environment. I really urge you to take a look at any of the Beautycounter sunscreens because they do not contain oxybenzone, which is the chemical that most drugstore sunscreens have to block UV rays. And while they're very good at blocking UV rays, it also, that chemical in a very, very, very small amounts kill the coral reefs and are killing the coral reefs all around the world. So just think about it. If it's something that could kill coral, do you want to put it on your body? Do you want to contribute to that? So, it's not about making the switch and changing everything that you're using, but if you can make one change, that sunscreen is a great place to start. So remember, anything that you purchase through my Beautycounter link, which you can find in your podcast app, directly supports me and In Her Voice. And I'm so thankful for that. And I'm excited for you that you're really treating your body and your skin with the respect that it deserves. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Mary. Mary Hyatt is on a quest to feel alive and to live a life full of gratitude, joy, authenticity, and abundance in body, mind, and soul. Mary believes that every person has the ability to embrace a life and body they love. Mary is the creator of Babe Redefined, a 6-week online course to help women make peace with the mirror, quiet their inner bully, and love their body. She lives in the heart of Nashville, and her days are spent juggling the roles of holistic lifestyle advocate as a presidential diamond wellness advocate with doTERRA essential oils and personal life and business coach. She helps her clients wake up, find their voice, and become fully alive. You can join Mary every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time on her Facebook Live show, where she dives into raw topics and helps her audience fall back in love with themselves and believe in their potential. I totally fell in love with Mary while I had her on here. She's got a fantastic Southern accent, which just brings me back home. And I love her message of self-love. So let's get right to Mary Hyatt. Mary Hyatt, I'm so excited to welcome you to In Her Voice. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Kelly, for having me. I am really excited to be on the show today.
Yes, and we're talking about such a fun topic, the idea of redefining babe, creating your own definition of beauty and confidence. And I just love this so much because this is really at the heart of what my passion is letting women know that they are worthy right now, not when they lose that last 10 pounds or however much they have to lose, or not when they think they finally made it, but right now. And I thought what would be a really great place to start for us today is just you sharing your story of beginning to understand that worthy now piece before you were where you are now.
Yeah, I love talking about this too because so many women, I don't ever meet a woman who, even in the first conversation of talking with her, doesn't mention something about her body or her appearance or making a joke about herself or something to kind of bring attention to the fact that she believes she's not good enough. And I was that exact woman. And rewind probably, gosh, now it's been 6, maybe even 7 years. Now I was in a totally different place. I was, kind of to give you a picture, I was about 80 pounds heavier than I am currently now. And I was just living in a life that I felt completely silenced and trapped in. I was in a marriage that I didn't want to be in, but I didn't really know that at the time. I was so terrified of giving voice to that everything in my life ended up being one big coping mechanism. So I was dealing with a ton of depression and anxiety to the point where I had a really hard time leaving the house even. I just completely shut down. I had my ex-husband at the time go out and get me lunch if I needed lunch or run errands if there were errands to be run. I was either sleeping or eating or doing anything I could to completely numb out and survive because emotionally there was so much going on that I didn't know how to address or how to give voice to or how to feel. And I think like most women, we start playing this role that we have been handed by society, by our families, by our spouses, by our friends. And it's sort of this role of playing the good girl where we are quiet, we are respectful, we believe we need to be small, we need to be little, because we don't have this sense of self-worth. And so for me, I can remember this moment. I was looking in the mirror, and in my house I had no full-length mirrors. I was so fearful of looking at my body. I hated myself so much. My internal dialogue was constantly telling myself, you're ugly, you're gross, you're disgusting, you're lazy, you have nothing in control, you're not worth loving, your body is hideous, you need to cover it up. So I had 0 full-length mirrors in my house because I did not want to look at my body. I was in this place of so much deep shame. But in my bathroom, I had this mirror that was, probably even above the chest, so most of my face and my neck. And I looked in the mirror and I caught a glimpse of my eyes. And I was in my late 20s. And I just thought to myself, what has my life become? How did I get here? And surely there has got to be more to life than this. And who I was in that time was just not the true version of myself. It was this muted, black and white, gray, just sad person. It was a shell of who I was. And I felt like I was sort of this walking wounded, this kind of numbed out part of myself that wasn't alive and colorful and vibrant and turned on for life. It was just existing. And so I knew in that moment something had to change. And so just out of a series of triggers that kind of got me to this place, I ended up going on Amazon and buying about 20 books that were all self-help books. They were all, finding who you were and becoming your true self and all these things that sounded good, but I didn't really know what that looked like or how to begin that process. So in true sort of Mary Hyatt fashion, when I choose to go in, I go all in. So I bought 20 books They all got delivered to my house, and I started just devouring that kind of content and began to really shift and change my life into a place of knowing who I was, finding my voice, becoming fully alive. And that got reflected in my body. And now I, help women do the same thing and really learn to love themselves from day one to, their 2.0 version.
I love that. I love the 2.0 version. We're going to get to that because I have some questions on that. One of my questions that came up though, while you were talking about this is, how did you teach yourself, or how did you learn how to feel again after numbing for so long and just shutting down all of those emotions? And this is a thing about numbing, and I think you alluded to this, is when you shut down the so-called negative emotions, you can't just shut down the negative emotions. You shut it all down. Mm-hmm. And so, like you said, you become just the shell of a person that doesn't have any life inside of them. So how did you learn how to start feeling again?
It was tricky. And I think that this is a process that you can talk about, and it feels really linear when you talk about it, but in its own personal experience, it's all over the place. It's super messy. It's tricky. You take 2 steps forward and 5 steps back. Mm-hmm. And I was at the point where I was on Zoloft for many, many years, and that numbs you out anyways. And I didn't probably cry for, 6 or something years, except for when I watched movies. It was like there was something in me that when I watched a movie, it gave me permission to actually feel something. But then, because I hadn't been experiencing my feelings in day-to-day life, when I would watch a movie that may have been sad or triggering in some way, it was like I couldn't shut the valve off. It was like I opened it up all the way, and I would just cry for hours and hours and hours, kind of like putting myself into the emotions of these characters in the movie. And that's honestly kind of how I started feeling again, because I was too afraid to feel my own emotions at the beginning. So it's almost like by proxy, I was feeling the emotions of other people. And I think that sort of began to bring me back to my own emotions. And I started listening to a podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with Tara Brach.
Yeah.
But I love her. And she talks a lot about feeling your feelings. And what I realized is that feelings, one of the reasons we avoid our feelings so much is because we believe that they are going to overtake us. And I always used to say, in my old way of existing, that somebody's going to put me in the loony bin. I was so terrified that if I would actually feel what was going on, I would go crazy and they would need to lock me up. And so going into a place where I gave myself permission to feel felt like very risky. It felt like this may turn out to where I can't bring myself back. And so what I needed to do is little by little give myself permission to identify those feelings and start with naming them before I actually allowed myself to sit in the discomfort and truly feel them. And so one of the ways that I did that is I numbed myself out primarily with food. So for me, that was a big thing. So anytime I was feeling lonely, anytime I was feeling stressed, fearful, even times I was feeling maybe I wanted some kind of, pleasure or whatever, I would numb with food. So even when I was not biologically hungry, I would go seek out in the fridge and get ice cream or get cereal or whatever it was to quiet my feelings and emotions. So what I read, I started reading this book, Intuitive Eating, and the authors of Intuitive Eating talk about this acronym called HALT, HALT. So what I did is I used my coping mechanism, which was overeating, and I attached this acronym HALT so that every time I decided to go to the fridge, for example, I halted. And the H stands for hungry, the A stands for angry, lonely, tired. And the idea here is that you basically start to notice, am I biologically hungry? Like, am I going to the fridge because I need nourishment? Or am I eating for other emotional reasons? And so by using that HALT acronym, I put it on my fridge, it gave me the opportunity to say, essentially, what am I feeling right now? what emotion is coming to the surface, because I know that the pattern is when I'm feeling uncomfortable, I go eat. And so it gave me the opportunity, almost going at it backwards, of saying, okay, I notice myself going to the fridge, boom, okay, actually, what am I feeling? And as Tara Brach would say, what is asking for my highest attention right now?
Ooh, I love that.
And so I just started asking myself questions because I didn't know what they felt like. But as I started to ask myself questions, it was like I started to get curious about this emotional landscape that I was experiencing at all times. What am I feeling? What does it feel like in my body to feel lonely? What does it feel like in my body sensations to feel angry? Okay, when I'm angry, my skin gets red, I start to sweat, I start feeling this pit in my stomach, or maybe my jaw begins to clench. I started to notice there was this deep correlation between our body sensations and our emotions. So I started paying attention to the body. What does happiness feel like? What does joy feel like? What does being scared feel like in the body? So that I could begin to kind of see these triggers and then get to, okay, so now what's the emotion? Can I name it? What am I feeling right now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I really love that so much. And I think what people will find when they start to use emotions as data, instead of just having the emotion and then you either feel it or you don't feel it, you say, I don't want to feel this way, so you numb out in some way. Acknowledge that you're feeling that, name it, like you say, and then you can use it as data, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, why do I feel angry right now? Let me get down into that. And then it becomes powerful. It becomes, you step into a place of being empowered by these emotions instead of feeling like they're cutting you off from what you want to feel. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really interesting.
Well, and I tend to tell people when they're experiencing emotion for the first time, I say, number one, feelings are just a vibration in your body. It's not who you are. So you can feel and experience angry without being an angry woman. You can feel and experience depression without being a depressed woman. You can feel and experience anxiety without being an anxious person. It doesn't have to be part of your identity. And I think sometimes we are afraid to feel our emotions because if we feel, or we believe that if we feel certain emotions, that becomes who we are.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this is a vibration. So you can almost sense, if you had an energy current outside of your body that's waves of energy, that's what that emotion is. They ebb, they flow, they come, they go. They don't have to stick to you. And so I think that's a really important distinction, because if we're not careful, we are afraid to feel certain emotions, and we begin to categorize, these are good emotions, well, these are bad emotions, these are sanctioned emotions, these are unsanctioned emotions, these are scary, these are safe. And the reality is that as a human being in our human experience, we are going to experience a whole range of different emotions, and all of them are, have a place at the table. None are good, none are bad, none are better, none are worse. And it's not who we are. And I can't remember who told me this. I think my therapist told me this, that you can't experience one emotion for longer than 20 minutes at a time. So for example, I used to experience a lot of panic attacks. And so it was a surge of anxiety, and I would spiral into them, and they were uncontrollable is what I felt like. And what I realized later, in a panic attack, you think you're going to die. You think they're going to last forever. It's very scary. And now I go, if I ever have one, I go, okay, this isn't going to last forever. This isn't who I am. This is just that vibrational energy going through me. It will pass. I'm not going to die. And so it kind of alleviates that fear that you're going to get locked up, in crazy town, because you just go, oh, this is just an experience, and I have control over my emotions. I can feel them. I can let them be, but it's not going to overtake me, and they're not my identity.
Yeah, I love that. I listened to a really beautiful podcast. It was years ago with Dave Asprey and Peter Sage, who is this philosopher. Amazing. I highly recommend. I'm going to try to find the link for you guys, and I'll put it in the show notes. But he talked about even the language that we use around that can be very powerful. So instead of saying something like, I am angry, you say, I feel angry. And, you know, it's a small shift, but it starts to make you aware of the fact that, like you say, you are not your thoughts. You are not those emotions. You are whole and perfect as you are, worthy right now. And I just really love that explanation that you give. It's so beautiful. So you're there, you're finally starting to feel, allow yourself to feel and to find the freedom and to feel like you're breathing again, having this life now. How did you come to terms with loving yourself where you were before you became, as you said, Mary 2.0?
For me, it really began with gratitude. Like I said, I hated my body so much. And therefore, because I believed my only worth in this world as a woman was the state of my body, which is what a lot of us believe, that whatever my body looks like, what the size is, what the weight is, what the shape is, what the color is, what the ability is, we believe that that determines our sense of self-worth. And so we're always looking for that external validation. Does he think I'm beautiful? Does he think I'm sexy? You know, does she think I am radiant? Does she think I'm fat? Does she think I'm skinny? You know, we have all of these questions, these deep questions we sort of turn out to the world to get answered. And so I, at the beginning, was getting all of that negative validation through my external world. And so I was living in a larger body. I was shopping at plus size stores. And I thought that that made me flawed. I thought that that meant that I was broken. Our society has taught us what it looks like to have fat phobia. And when you're in a fat body, and I don't mean that in a negative connotation, just a larger body, then all the things that we put onto somebody in a larger body become true for you. Lazy, uncontrolled, undisciplined, gross, and too indulgent, not enough control, all of these different things. And so I had all of these self-judgments on myself. And therefore, what happened is I ended up turning it onto my body. I started blaming my body. Why can't you lose the weight? Why can't you do this? And I just got so angry with myself and so angry with my body. So I got asked to join a friend of mine at a yoga class. Now, I was probably a size, 20 something, 240 pounds. And the thought of walking into a yoga studio was A, terrifying, and B, laughable. It was like, excuse me, like this body does not do yoga. If I try to do child's pose, I'm going to suffocate myself with my breasts. Like I can't even, I can't even do anything. It hurts to sit in Indian style. Like it hurts to get in and out of a car. It's not going to happen. Thankfully, I, oh my gosh, trusted this friend so much, loved her dearly, and decided to go with her. And one of the most powerful things that we did in that first yoga class was, number one, we closed our eyes. And that immediately gave me permission to not have to perform, to not have to look around and size myself up and body check myself against all the other women in the class, but I could go internal. And the first thing that they had us do is to sit there on our mats and offer gratitude for our bodies. Now, at the time, that was revolutionary to me. Why would I thank my body? My body is sick. I had endometriosis. I was on medication for anxiety, for depression, hypothyroid. My body had turned against me. My body was my enemy. I was at war with my body. So why in the world would I sit here and thank my body? But something powerful happened in that yoga class. I began weeping because she had us go from the top of our head down to our toes, putting our hands on the different parts of our body and saying, "Thank you, I love you, please forgive me." And I just got chills saying that
gosh,
right now.
Me too. Like I'm tearing up because I think it's so powerful to have that gratitude.
Oh, it all of a sudden made me realize, oh my gosh, this isn't a body that I'm at war with.
Yeah.
This is a body that wakes up every day with new life, with new breath, that allows me to walk and to get in and out of my car, in and out of a chair. It allows me to pick up my nieces and nephews. It allows me to plant flowers in my garden. It allows me to eat the food that I love and enjoy. It allows me to paint. Whatever it was like, oh, right, this body is incredible. This is my home. This is my ally. This is my friend. And so in that state of gratitude, when you're literally touching the parts of yourself, like my underarms that I hated, or my stomach that was full of stretch marks and flab, when you touch those parts of your body that you've since before just totally abused and berated, and ask for forgiveness for the ways that you've abused and berated your body, it's like all of a sudden you can come to peace with something that you thought was your enemy and enter into a state of acceptance and love. And so I ended up taking that practice on daily. And every day I would lie in my bed and wake up in the morning and touch my body. I love you. Thank you. Please forgive me. And through that process of gratitude, I began to learn how to love the body that I was in without feeling like I needed to do anything to change it. And I actually went on several weeks later to train to become a yoga instructor and started teaching plus size yoga, because I wanted all bodies to feel accepted and welcome into a yoga studio. And so that's really how I began to love my body from day one, before it ever shifted and lost weight or changed or anything. Like I was fine if it didn't even do that. It's like, I love myself now. And it took that work of that daily practice.
Oh, I love that so much. So it seems to me like that was really for you, the beginning of your own journey in recreating your definition of what it means to be beautiful, of what it means to be confident. And so how do you teach women now? I'm sure that this practice is a big part of it, but what else can we do to, as you say, redefine babe, which I think is really interesting. Like that word, I have to be honest, when I read it, I was like, ugh. Yes. You know, I didn't love it. It kind of triggered me. And I think that I'm always interested when things trigger me like that. But maybe that's a good place to start. Why babe?
I am just laughing because you're not alone. It triggers a lot of people. And it's so funny because how we got to that, as I have a course, a 6-week online course called Babe Redefined, where I walk people through this process of coming to the course where they hate themselves, they hate their bodies, they're at war with their bodies, and by the end of the 6 weeks, they've stepped into making peace with food, loving and accepting their body, and owning who they are. And when I was trying to come up with a name for the course, I had a beta group, and they were going through the course and the content together. And what I realized was that this word babe is so charged, because instantly when we hear the word babe, we have an image in our mind. We have the image of the pornographic woman. We have the image of Barbie. We have the image of Stepford Wives. You know, whatever that perfect kind of untouchable ideal beauty woman is, that's what we think. And I started to think about that word, like how did it become what it is now? How do all of these women who've had different experiences in life, come from different places, have the same reaction to this word babe? Like it's not a great association. It's somehow, again, it's shoving it in our face that we've failed.
Yeah.
And I just think, God, like, you know, language is always so fascinating to me, but how can this word take on such deep meaning? And so I went to work thinking about how can we redefine and take back this word in a way that feels really empowering, in a way that allows us to embrace our own definition of beauty, our own definition of what it looks like to be sexy, our own definition of what it looks like to be feminine, and that is going to have so many different definitions. But my passion, I guess, is almost like redefining what exists out there already. It's like if we're going to take back sort of this Like, no, that's in my power to define what it is that makes me feel confident and loved and powerful as a woman. I can use that word babe. It doesn't have to mean A, B, and C. I want to be able to utilize that word. I want to be able to use that word. And it's not just a word that is reserved for one type of ideal beauty type. Mm-hmm. So we kind of very intentionally as a group decided that would be powerful because it would open up the conversation to start talking about why it triggers you. What do we believe the word babe means, and why do we feel like we're falling short? And then from there, creating the invitation to redefine it.
I love that. You know, a thought that I had is in relationship to my own beauty is that I feel most beautiful, not when other people tell me I'm beautiful, but when I acknowledge my own beauty. And that, you know, I've never really thought about it like that until now. I mean, I have a deep practice of self-love that's really, really important to me, but to kind of define it like that is really interesting because for me to feel most beautiful, it's not about what anybody else thinks. Mm-hmm. And it's about how I'm showing up. It's about how I'm acknowledging my gifts and you know, how I'm walking in this world. Mm-hmm. And I love that this is the work that you're doing with people, because when women show up acknowledging how amazing they are, things happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's when we begin to change the world. That's when women say, yeah, there's more for me. Just like you stepped up and you said, you know, there's more than just the shell. And I'm curious to know, with the women that you've worked with, have you really seen results beyond that confidence, beyond understanding their beauty?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, it's so fascinating to see, because this journey is so unique to the individual, because what you're walking in with, the kind of lies that you've been believing, how deep they go, the trauma involved. And there's all different kinds of issues that women are walking in with, that they're looking at getting sort of transformed or healed or whatever that looks like. And so the results are really different. I mean, there's people in the course that are starting to date for the first time after a decade of being too afraid to go on a date. And all they want so desperately and deeply is to have a partner. And so just being able to get out there and be seen. I have people who are starting new businesses, who are increasing their revenue and starting to charge more because they believe what they're worth is more than what they've been asking before. You know, people who now are able to have more intimacy, sexual intimacy within their partnerships, which is always so beautiful. People in their 60s and 70s who are like learning this for the first time. It's just amazing. And I think one of the biggest things that I keep seeing is this state of freedom, where they have exited out of living under so much fear around food, fear around using their voice, fear around showing up and being seen, fear around pursuing things that make them come alive. It's like all of a sudden they've been just given this huge permission slip to be who they are and to fully embrace that. And so that looks very different for all the different people. But I would say, if I could define it in one way, what people are getting out of the course and out of this work is freedom.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I love it. Mary, so I'm curious, what does the word babe mean to you?
To me, babe is a woman in her power. I just think about this kind of goddess energy where she doesn't look any certain way. It's like the mother walking down the street, pushing the baby stroller, the woman who's checking us out at the local grocery store, the woman who's on stage speaking, the woman who is teaching kindergartners. Any woman who truly loves herself on such a deep level that she is unapologetic of who she is, and she radiates one thing that I know about being a babe is that you will be smiling. You will have a smile on your face. You will feel like you are glowing, and that you will feel a sense of confidence, bravery, courage, resiliency, and just like that true, fierce femininity. That to me, it's like when we are owning and stepped into our power as a woman, whatever that looks like, and that doesn't have to be from a feminist standpoint or whatever, just like when you get to be fully you, that to me is a babe. You can see it, you notice it, it transcends all shapes, sizes, colors, races, whatever. You can sense it. It is a woman who is happy ultimately.
Ugh, even as you were saying that, I was beaming. Like, I can't help but hear you talk about that with that, like, help but smile. Like, it's totally there. And I'm so excited that you are here sharing this work with my listeners, helping us to understand how we are all babes in this moment and how owning our own beauty and owning our own gifts can really create a difference that goes far beyond our own world. Thank you. And I'm sure that this work is deeply connected to your own inner wisdom. You talk a lot about how your body knows, how you have to listen to your body, how your body talks to you and tells you what it needs. And so I would ask you, in your life right now, what is your inner voice asking of you?
I was thinking about this a little bit earlier today because I've been rushing around. I've had a bunch of appointments with my coaching clients, and it's Friday. And so, I'm thinking about all the things I'm going to do on my Saturday and everything. And if I could pause right now and just sort of ask myself, okay, what is asking for my highest attention right now? What is that voice asking for? And for me, I know my body is telling me that I need to rest this evening. And I just had a planning meeting with my executive assistant, and I have all these things on my action items and to-do list. And instead, I'm going to choose to honor my body and choose to rest this evening. And after this podcast, call it a day.
Wonderful. That's been a message that my body has been sending me a lot lately. And also, in fact, I just did a solo episode about this very thing because it's a hard message to listen to often, especially because we want to be doing things, but sometimes what we need to do is rest.
Yes.
So, oh gosh, Mary, thank you so much. I have so enjoyed spending this time with you. I want to take a moment and acknowledge your beauty. I am not with you face to face, but I can feel it because that's how beauty is. It goes so far beyond the packaging. And I am just deeply, deeply grateful for you today in this moment. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, wow. I really love that turn on the word babe because I think that there are certainly connotations to that. And I know even as we were talking, I felt kind of triggered by that word, but that's just it. When we feel triggered by words or by certain circumstances or whatever, it can be within our power to shift the perspective on that, to understand what that word can mean to us, to not have to apply that same definition that maybe other people apply. I mean, and I just love this idea that when we begin to acknowledge our own beauty inside and out, that's when we feel beautiful. If we deny the beauty, if someone says, you look great today, and we brush that off, we're not going to feel beautiful. So other people can't make us feel beautiful. We have to own that, and we have to believe that. And I really believe that each and every one of you is beautiful. You have a light shining from within you that inspires people, that can move people, that has the ability to change your life, to change the lives of the people around you, to change the lives of people in this world. I believe that. I believe that about you. And my hope is that you begin to believe that about yourself. You are worthy.